Hi, I'm Michael Weber, Artistic Director of Chicago's Porchlight Music Theater. Today is another special edition of Classic Musicals from the Golden Age of Radio with our guest, Stephen Cole, the prolific award-winning musical theater writer. Now that is books and lyrics, sometimes just the books, sometimes just the lyrics, including among his many productions, the Ethel Merman musical, Merman's Apprentice. And he's the author of 5 published books. Hello, Stephen. I'm so happy to have you here.
It's so great to be here. Thank you.
Opening October 14th, 1930 at the Alvin Theater, now the Neil Simon, Girl Crazy with music by George Gershwin, lyrics by Ira Gershwin, and a book by Guy Bolton and John McGowan was one of the quintessential musical comedies of the early 1930s, assuring stardom for the leading lady and launching the meteoric career of a supporting actor who would go on to become the undisputed queen of the American music theater. Now, it's the story of Danny Churchill, an entertainer from New York who falls for the woman of his dreams, a postwoman named Molly Gray, after his father sends him to a ranch in Arizona. Nevertheless, Danny longs for a sinful life and turns the ranch into a nightclub and casino. Of course, despite the ensuing chaos of conspiracies, robbery, and pursuits, Molly and Danny manage to find their way to each other and to love. Now, Stephen, what strikes me about this show is that if we ever had a time machine, this is the show you wanted to go back to the specific opening night performance of, because it was incredibly special.
Oh, yeah, I totally agree. Well, it starred, the 2 stars that you mentioned, one was Ginger Rogers, who was 19 years old, and the other was a 22-year-old Ethel Merman, who had never stepped on a Broadway stage before. So, I mean, she was the excitement that came out of it. Ginger became a star in films, but I had always read that they almost fired Ginger because you couldn't hear her past the second row. Remember, this is the time before miking. And then in walks this young 22-year-old Ethel Merman with this clarion tone that just knocked people out all the way up in the balcony. Mm-hmm. And so she got the most notice, because I always think that Ginger was the quintessential ingenue type at that time, blonde and sang sort of soprano to get her voice over the orchestra. And Merman came along and she was the opposite. She was urban, she was tough, and she didn't have that soprano sound, but she had enough of a big, huge ping in her voice to get it over the orchestra and the excitement. I mean, we've seen her on video and I've seen her in person, I'm lucky. And the excitement of that sound and that energy propelled. She had 2 songs at the end of Act 1, one after another, Sam and Delilah, and then I Got Rhythm. And the story always went that at intermission, George Gershwin climbed up the 5 flights to her dressing room and walked in and said, "Ethel, do you know what happened?" She said, "I don't know. Those people were cheering. Did my clothes fall off?" And she said, "No." And then he told her, "Never go near a singer." Yeah, and she never did. I mean, it was just a very natural thing. Interestingly enough, he adored her, but Ira did not. I have read that he had problems with her. He didn't like the arrangement. He didn't like the show-off note, all of that stuff. And so he was not a Merman fan, as it were. But George was, and I think was always peeking around the corner for another show for her, but that didn't happen. Well, so that opening night, it also had those incredible people in the pit. Yeah. The Robert Russell Bennett orchestrations, he did orchestrations for everybody, Showboat, but this had a really jazzy sound, and so it had people in the pit that wound up being big stars as big band people, like Benny Goodman and King Krupa, and who else was it? Red Nichols.
Red Nichols, Glenn Miller, I believe Tommy Dorsey.
Yeah, and those were just regular guys in the band. Nobody knew that they were going to be stars.
So these guys, like Jack Teagarden also is in there. They played the entire run of the show, or at least a good portion of the.
Yeah.
This was not an opening night stunt.
No, not at all. They had a job. They were hired to be in the band. They had also done Strike Up the Band, I believe, before. So it's not like the musicians needed a job, and big bands hadn't come into play yet.
Right.
So they all wound up being interesting stars because with the big band era. Right. But at this time, they were just great players in the pit.
Right.
And it also included one more. I just wanted to mention Roger Eaton.
Yes.
Roger Eaton's on opening night wound up playing on stage for Merman. He had been in the pit. Mm-hmm. And the reason for this was her real arranger, who had credit and billing in the show, Al Siegel, who arranged all her stuff, which means he did that fabulous arrangement of I Got Rhythm, the vocal arrangement, that included her holding the note for 8 bars at a time. Mm-hmm. And he got sick on opening night. And so Roger Edens went up and played on stage for her, for Sam and Delilah. Mm-hmm. And they became really close friends, Merman and Edens. Mm-hmm. And when she went out to Hollywood to do movies, she brought him along, especially for Kid Millions. And he did vocal arrangements for that. And he stayed on. And he got a job at MGM. And he worked with Judy Garland and all of those people and became the arranger at MGM. He was the associate producer with Arthur Freed on most of those movie musicals. Mm-hmm. And all that time during the rest of her career, he did all of her special material and arrangements. Mm-hmm. Anytime she appeared on TV or radio or in nightclubs, and he did them for free, she told me. And she would send him presents of carved hands because he collected those, but he never took a penny.
Wow.
From Ethel. Yeah.
And is it true that on opening night, George Gershwin himself conducted the show?
I think he did that as a treat for most of his opening nights. Yeah. He enjoyed doing that and then went away. Mm-hmm. And came back when he wanted to see it. Yeah.
So where were the Gershwins in the journey of their career when it comes to a show like this? So much of the music, there are so many Gershwin evergreens in this production, but where were they along the line?
Well, when you think about it, this really is the last 1920s musical comedy that they did. They started out together. George had done stuff before he got together with Ira, but they did Lady Be Good for the Fred and Adele Astaire. They did Funny Face. They did Treasure Girl. They did Okay. There were these incredibly successful 1920s musical comedies with plots that were typical of those days. And then they did a show called Strike Up the Band in 1927 with George S. Kaufman. And he introduced them, or really introduced the world to that political satire musical. And they wrote more in the style of Gilbert and Sullivan. The show was less musical comedy and more in a new style that they developed in Strike Up the Band and Of Thee I Sing and Let 'Em Eat Cake, where whole scenes were musicalized. Actually, because we think of these times as, funny book, plop a song, great song in, but their shows were different. This Girl Crazy, I think, is still in the funny, great song, plop a great song in. It was still that, and because it was 1930, it almost looks like a 20s show too. There are pictures of Merman and Ginger Rogers in their street clothes, and they still look like flappers. So even though the Depression had just hit, which was a big deal, obviously, it felt like a frivolous 20 show. It did not deal at all in politics or any kind of satire. It just was what it was. It was, hey, we're going to do a Western show. And I believe it was originally conceived as a vehicle for Bert Lahr.
Right.
Bert Lahr would have been Geber Goldfarb, and he would have been hilarious because he was always hilarious. And he didn't do it. He took a different show. And so they wound up with Willie Howard, who did it more in the Yiddish theater tradition of comedy. It's funny because nobody else plays Geber that way. Right. And I really like that way. I like the whole, Yiddish thing going on,
Yeah.
and you can hear it in the jokes.
Hmm.
He's a New York cab driver.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
but I feel like it is the kind of the end of their musical comedy era. The next show they did that was even a musical comedy is Pardon My English, which
Hmm.
was a big flop, which is a wonderful score. But I think that's a little more hybrid. It feels like they're still moving into that of Thee I Sing land, where
Hmm.
whole scenes are musicalized
Right.
and so I would say that Girl Crazy with all these song hits is the last of those 20 shows.
And a couple of the song hits were not originally written for this show, from what I understand. "Embraceable You" and
Right.
was potentially written for an unpublished operetta that
East is
they were going to
West,
do.
I think it was called. Yeah.
"East is West," and
That's true.
yeah,
Well, the
and I got
music was anyway, at least. But that happened a lot in those days. George Gershwin would have a great tune and something didn't happen with it, and he'd move it around. The
right.
same thing happened with I've Got a Crush on You, which
Hmm.
was in Treasure Girl with Gertrude Lawrence, which was a big flop.
Hmm.
And he took it and he put it in the 1930 version of Strike Up the Band, and
Right.
it became a hit song. The famous one is from Lady Be Good was The Man I Love.
Yes.
The Man I Love was
Mhm.
put into show after
For
show
show
and never
after
stayed
show.
in
Yeah.
and got cut until it became a hit song on its own.
Hmm.
But it was not, it was originally to be introduced by Adele Astaire, and it
Right.
didn't happen.
So the actors that are going to be in the program in this radio adaptation of Girl Crazy are not the actors of that original Broadway production. Of course, they had gone on and become gigantic stars, which might have meant why they were not available for this. But we've got some other people who did have some interesting careers in this production. Larry Douglas and Monica Lewis, Ted DeCorzia. Minor, certainly not stars, but these were people who also had substantial careers in Broadway and film as well.
Yeah, that's very true. Just listening to it, it's a delightful production, but it is a homogenized 1948 version of 1930 in a way.
Hmm.
The way they sing is much more 1948. I think it was Lynn Murray who did these arrangements. It's very smooth and made where I think 1930 was a little more jagged and interesting,
Hmm.
certainly the arrangements. And we're lucky enough to have those original orchestrations recorded so we can hear what it's like.
Right.
So, but they're good, but the singers sound more like radio singers in a
Hmm.
way rather than theater singers. What's interesting about it is this whole series that it came from did use original casts lots of times.
Yes.
They announce at the end, you'll hear it at the end, they're going to announce Arsenic and Old Lace next week, which made me
Right.
die to listen to that
Yeah.
with the two old ladies, the original Josephine Hull and Gina Dare and Boris Karloff.
Mm-hmm.
And our host here today is Howard Lindsay, who certainly knew musical comedy because he wrote the book For Anything Goes with Russell Crowe. So I actually am a little surprised that they didn't. Maybe they reached out to those original people. Maybe they went to Merman and she went, I'm not doing that.
It could have been, yeah, and Ginger Rogers, to kind of
Yeah.
go, I'm busy in Hollywood getting Academy Awards. I'm not going to come back to the radio.
But they all did radio. It's interesting, there were all those Lux theaters and they all did radio. So it is interesting. But I would say the thing that is most interesting is that you can almost not tell the difference between Molly and Kate, the Ginger Rogers and the Ethel Merman in this, because they just both sing really well,
Right.
instead of distinctive. There's also extra songs in this version.
Yes. And what are the nature of these songs? Were they were just things they plopped in, or were they?
Yeah. You're gonna hear. Don't be surprised when you hear Someone to Watch Over Me. They must have just wanted extra music, and also what was the other one? There was one other ballad I think that they plopped, another famous Gershwin ballad.
Right.
But you listen for it, you'll hear. But you're going to hear most of the whole score. I think the most interesting thing is that you get the end of Act One.
Mm-hmm.
They call it Act Two because it's radio.
Right.
But listen for that, because it's a song that they've cut, and yet you're hearing a reprise of a song that you've cut.
Right. Right.
That's kind of wonderful.
Yes, it's got little surprises in it. So let's give the show a listen. This is from the January 18th, 1948 episode of the Ford Theater. Here are Monica Lewis as Molly Gray, Larry Douglas as Danny Churchill, Marilyn Day as Frisco Kate Fothergill, and Ted DeCorzia as Gebert Goldfarb, with your host, Howard Lindsay, in Girl Crazy.
This is the Ford Theater, an hour of radio drama presented by the Ford Motor Company, makers of Ford, Mercury, and Lincoln cars, and Ford trucks, farm tractors, and motor coaches. Today's play, George Gershwin's Girl Crazy.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is Howard Lindsay, extending the management's welcome to the Ford Theater. This week, a very special event, George Gershwin's musical comedy, Girl Crazy. Girl Crazy is Gershwin at the peak of his popular success in 1930, shortly after Rhapsody in Blue, but just before his final creative years in which he turned to operatic and concert composition. The lyrics, of course, are by the composer's brother, Ira, and the story has been adapted for radio by George Zachary, with one major objective in mind: to crowd into the brief hour ahead as much Gershwin music as possible. The Ford Theater presents George Gershwin's Girl Crazy.
My name is Gebert Goldfarb, and I've been driving a hack around New York for 15 years, about the time this whole thing starts. You see, I'm stopped for a light on 48th Street in Broadway when a snappy-looking gent hails me and climbs in. Where to, I inquire, and he gives me a big wink and says,
Go west, my man, go west.
well, I see he's had a couple, but I figure a good-looking guy in a monkey suit has got to be pretty well heeled, so I start out in the general direction of Jersey. 2 days later, I am still driving west, and we're stopping for gas in Kansas City. Listen, I says, ain't this getting kind of expensive?
Think nothing of it, Geber. What's the fare?
$473.85.
Oh, a jet cab, eh?
Now, looky here, mister.
Okay, Geber, don't excite yourself. I'm Danny Churchill, and I'm good for the money.
You mean your old man is?
Same thing. He's paying for this trip.
Where are we bound for?
Dad's ranch in Custerville,
Custerville, where's that?
Arizona.
Now, listen, playboy.
Look, Geber, haven't you ever wanted to see the great open spaces, the sweeping plains, the sun-kissed peaks of the everlasting hills?
All I want to see is $473. And it looks like I got to drive to Arizona to see it. On the way, Danny tells me his old man, who owns all the diamonds ain't got room for in Tiffany's, has got pretty fed up with Danny's chasing from one girl to another and ordered him out to the family ranch to take a course in bronco busting and all that. Well, when we get to Custerville, which is in the absolute middle of nowhere, I see what the old man has in mind. There's a sign that says, "This lovely little village boasts of the fact that there have been no women within its limits for over 50 years. The one and original woman was shot and killed in a quarrel over her. 30 men were injured in a skirmish." Well, all this must have happened a long time ago because there sure is nothing happening now. Nothing, that is, except some cowboys sitting around singing.
Some fellas love to tiptoe through the tulips. Some fellas go on singing in the rain. Some people keep on painting skies with rainbows. Some fellers keep on swinging down the lane. But I'm biding my time, 'cause that's the kind of guy I'm. While other folks grow dizzy, I keep busy biding my time. Next year, something's bound to happen. This year, I'll just keep on napping and by.
Well, Geber, what do you think of the place?
It looks very unfriendly. Even the cucumbers got spikes on them.
You'll grow to love it, Geber.
I doubt it. And those tough-looking hombres don't look too friendly neither. I'll feel safer back on 48th Street.
All right, then. Sorry you won't stay. Here's your fare.
Hey, where am I going to cash a check for $785 in the desert? Well, one thing leads to something else, and I'm staying at Buzzard's Ranch with Danny. That sign in Custerville couldn't have been strictly on a level because there was one dame in the neighborhood, and it didn't take Danny no time to find her. Or maybe she found him.
Just what do you do here, miss?
I look after the mails in this section.
Good heavens, all of them?
No, silly. I have charge of the post office.
I've always heard you get acquainted fast out west.
Oh, we do, but
We always take a little longer in New York because we want to know everything.
everybody I ever met from New York knew everything.
If a letter comes for me, do you have to deliver it?
Uh-huh.
I'll have everybody in America write to me.
You're not the least bit conceited, are you?
No, just ambitious.
Is New York as wild a place as they say it is?
New York is the most marvelous place in the world, and I'd enjoy showing you around.
Oh, thanks.
What about here?
Oh, I'm busy.
Too busy to go to a dance once in a while or play a game of tennis?
Say, you must think Buzzards is one of these dude ranches.
A dude ranch. You've given me a great idea. That's just what it's going to be. Girls, cocktails, dancing, roughhouse. My dad thought he was sending me away from the bright lights. Well, I'll just bring the bright lights out here and turn them all on.
Count me out.
Don't you ever have a good time out here?
Oh, sure we do. You ought to have been at my last candy pull.
Candy pull? Oh, lady, what I'm going to do for you. Have some pity on an Easterner. Show a little sympathy. No one possibly could be sterner than you have been with me. There's a job that I'm applying for. Let me put it to you thus. It's a partnership I'm dying for, Mr. and Mrs. Us. Before you file it on the shelf, let me tell you of myself. Oh, I'm the chappie to make you happy. I'll tie your shoesies and chase your bluesies. Oh, lady, would you? Oh, tell me, could you use me? I'd shake the mat out and put the cat out. I'd clean the garret and feed the parrot. Oh, lady, would you? Oh, tell me, could you use me? Do you realize what a good man you're getting in me? I'm no elk or mason or woodman who gets home at 3. The girls who see me grow soft and dreamy, but I'm a gander who won't philander. Oh, could you use me? 'Cause I certainly could use you.
There's a chap I know in Mexico who's as strong as he can be, eating nails and drinking Texaco. He is the type for me. There is one in California, more romantic far than you. When he sings Ha-cha-cha-cha-nia, I often think he'll do. But as for you, sir, I'm afraid you will never make the grade. For you're no cowboy, you're soft and hot boy. I feel no muscle fit for tussle. I must refuse you. I cannot use you. Excuse me. No nightlife for you. The birds would bore you. The cows won't know you. A horse would throw you. You silly man.
case you're wondering, this dame's name is Molly Gray. And she's as cute a doll as I ever see, with a Texas high-heel boots, leather skirt, and big 7.5-gallon hat. Before you know it, Danny's given her such a play that it's a good thing not many special delivery letters comes to Custerville, on account they'd get delivered the day after tomorrow. Meantime... Excuse me. What happened? Another one? Yeah, like I thought, they just shot another sheriff. This seems to be the main pastime in Custerville. Personally, I suspect the character named Cactus Jake, a very rough type hombre who wants to be sheriff himself. Well, one day, just after another sheriff has been disqualified, this Jake tries to put the finger on me.
There he is, boy! Where's the fellow that put the sheriff? Tie his hands up.
You can't tie my hands.
Oh, we can't, huh? Why not?
He's got a point. While I'm trying to think of the answer, Jake starts slipping a noose over my head.
Come on, fellas. We can hang him to that there beam.
Nah, take that rope off. You want to dirty my collar?
Okay, Jake, I got it over the beam.
Well, don't hang me on that one. It don't look safe. I might fall and hurt myself.
Come on, boys. String him up.
No, wait a minute. There's something I want to say. It's just one word. If I can only think of it, give me a chance to think. Stop. That's it. That's the word. Thank you, boss. Well, Danny saved my life that time. But he really had more important things to do. He'd been advertising the Buzzard as a dude ranch. And pretty soon, Easterners start flocking out like dialects in Allen's Alley. One of them is an old flame of Danny's, a showgirl called Kate Fothergill, who had that old look before it became the new one. She takes to the West like she was born under a cactus bush and tells us all about it.
In town we used to fret away until we made our getaway out here where there's no doubt that men are men. We're men.
We're men.
Are men.
Are men.
We don't care if we don't go east again.
Don't care if we don't go east again.
It's wonderful to breeze around. They seem to have real trees around, and of the open spaces there's no doubt. No doubt.
No doubt.
No doubt.
No doubt.
That is the life that Riley told about.
The life that Riley told about.
Before we're at the ranch another week, we'll get the well-known roses in the cheek. We haven't missed old Broadway or the white lights. When the moon is nightlight, that's the best of bright lights. This is the place to tarry at. The chaps who throw the lariat can sling a line that does a girl no good.
No good.
Not wood.
Not wood.
Not wood.
Not wood.
They sling a line that does a girl no good.
We're Bronco busters. We bust the Broncos. We never fear man or beast. In western saddles, we fight our battles. We're manly to say the least. Like the Rangers, we fear no dangers. We are never far. We're Bronco busters. We bust the Broncos or else we bust.
They're Bronco busters, they bust the Broncos, they never fear man or beast. They pack a wallop, they never dollop, their pants have never been creased.
If you trifle, we aim a rifle, bang, you bite the dust. Oh, this is Sunburg, we'll sing our Romberg until we bust.
Well, it don't take Kate long to figure out that Danny is very willing to let bygones be has-beens. Things is really beginning to simmer between him and Molly Gray, though there is certain symptoms that east is east and west is still, well, west.
Poor, quiet little Custerville. What you aren't doing to it, Danny.
Have you seen our new gay 90s barroom?
No, I haven't.
Come on, Molly, I'll show it to you.
Well, not now. I'm going home.
Oh, you can't go yet. I haven't had a chance to talk to you.
Well, you forget how early I have to get up in the morning.
Oh, can't you oversleep tomorrow and get up at 5?
That makes the day too short.
If you get up at the time I go to bed, how are we going to see each other?
Oh, must we?
You bet we must. I've got a lot of things I want to say to you about our future.
Oh, I see. Our future.
Don't you like me, Molly?
Oh, sure I do.
How much?
Enough to make me want to be careful.
Careful of me?
No, of me.
I'm crazy about you, Molly.
I wonder how many girls you've told that to.
Well, here's something I've never said before. Will you marry me?
Oh, don't be silly.
Oh, come on. Just this once.
Dozens of girls would storm up. I had to lock my door. Somehow I couldn't warm up to one before. What was it that controlled me? What kept my love life lean? My intuition told me you'd come on the scene. Lady, listen to the rhythm of my heartbeat, and you'll get just what I mean. Embrace me, my sweet embraceable you. Embrace me, you irreplaceable you. Just one look at you, my heart grew tipsy in me. You and you alone bring out the gypsy in me. I love all the many charms of you. Above all, I want my arms about you. Don't be a naughty baby. Come to Papa, do. My sweet embraceable you.
I went about reciting, here's one who never falls. But I'm afraid the writing is on the wall. My nose it used to turn up when you'd besiege my heart. Now I completely burn up when you're slow to start. I'm afraid you'll have to take the consequences. You've upset the apple cart. Embrace me, my sweet embraceable. Embrace me, you irreplaceable you. In your arms I find love so delectable, dear. I'm afraid it isn't quite respectable, dear. But hang it, come on, let's glorify love. Ding dang it, you'll shout encore if I love. Don't be a naughty papa. Come to baby, come to baby boo. My sweet
Excuse me. I seem to be interrupting a very tender interlude. Sam Mason.
Hello, Danny. Surprised to see me?
Yes, and not very pleased.
Danny.
I heard that your father had sent you out here to reform you, so I came to find out for myself.
Well, I think Danny is beginning to see that the West has got something attractive about it.
Well, how could he help that with you here?
I've even managed to get him to ride horseback.
Well, you like riding?
I love it.
May I ride with you sometime?
You'd have to get up very early. I'm in charge of the post office here, and I make my rounds before most people like you are out of bed.
Like me? I'm out of bed before breakfast every morning.
Well, then you're invited.
Thanks. Danny, this was a swell idea of yours, this dude ranch.
Yes, wasn't it?
I suppose you have accommodations for me.
Sorry, we're filled up.
No room?
No room for you.
Why, Danny, that isn't true Western hospitality.
Certainly not.
You can't stay here, Sam. That's final.
Well, perhaps we can find room for you at our house. Come on, Mr. Mason.
What?
Say, I'd like that better.
I'll see what I can do about it.
Molly, you can't. You don't know what he's like.
Boss! Hey, boss!
What is it now, Geber?
They just shot another sheriff.
To the Custerville Eden, then, enter a character who may just possibly turn out to be a snake in the sagebrush. We'll see about that in Act 2. Meanwhile, I suggest that we devote our best attention to an on-the-level hombre named Banghart Kenneth. He speaks for the Ford Motor Company.
It was 40 years ago that the young Ford Motor Company introduced the automobile that was to become one of the most famous and beloved cars in history, the Model T. Back in those days, Americans began writing letters to the Ford Motor Company to praise the performance of their Fords. And the letters have continued through the days of the Model T and the Model A and the V8 and the 6, right down to the present time, except that they've been increasing in volume as more and more people have become acquainted with Fords. The letters come today in every mail. One of the recent letters was from Dr. J.A. Raub of Monroe, Wisconsin. On November 12, 1942, I took delivery of a Ford 6, Dr. Raub wrote, and the satisfaction that this car gave me prompts me to express my appreciation to the Ford Motor Company. At the time, I held a ration certificate, which would have entitled me to buy any make of car, and at that time, most makes were available. However, there was no doubt in my mind. Ford's reputation for dependability made it imperative for me to choose the Ford. My confidence in Ford was repaid by 150,000 miles of trouble-free driving throughout the war years. I never expect to own any other car but a Ford. That's a letter from one Ford owner, but it's typical of countless letters the Ford Motor Company has received, typical of the satisfaction felt by owners of Ford products, typical of the performance Ford products give. You can depend on Ford.
The Ford Theater, Girl Crazy, continuing the adventures of Molly and Danny in the wide open spaces. Our first act ended, you will recall, with the sudden and fatal collapse of the Custerville sheriff and the arrival on the scene of trouble. Trouble in the person of Sam Mason.
But, Danny, what have you got against Sam Mason anyhow? He seems like a fella knows his way around.
That's just it, Geber. Around Molly. He's just making a play for her to get even with me because I took a girl away from him back in New York.
Aha.
Now, with all these weighty matters on my mind, I'd like you to take over the problem of law and order in Custerville. What do you know about politics?
Enough to keep out of him.
We want you to run for sheriff. The last one just quit.
Quit cold, you mean? Nothing doing. The job ain't got no security.
You could hold it till your dying day. And if you're elected, you'll get a big silver star on your chest.
Or a lily. Danny, I don't look my best by candlelight.
But, Geber, there's no danger. We're all behind you. Aren't we, fellas?
Wait!
Come on, Geber, you got to run.
Well, just don't get too far behind. They needed a man who was brave and strong to rid the town of crime.
Go far.
That's I.
They needed a man who would not take graft unless it was over a dime.
Go far.
That's I. Don't talk a General Custer, don't talk a Buffalo Bill. Goldfarb gives a bigger thrill. They needed a man who knows the game through serving a lot of time.
Go far.
That's I.
So vote for Geber Goldfarb, he's all right. So vote for Geber Goldfarb, man of might. They needed a man who knows the game through serving a lot of time. Goldfarb.
That's I. So, I'm running for sheriff. But what Danny don't tell me is that the guy I'm running against is Cactus Jake. Maybe that's just to keep me from running away. Anyhow, Danny got his own troubles, what with Sam Mason giving Molly the biggest rush since 49. But I figure Danny's still got the edge because Molly's all the time trying to make a Westerner out of him.
But, Danny, if you'd only try to understand the West, instead of doing everything you can to make it more like the East.
It isn't that I don't like it, Molly. It's just that, well, I can't sleep out here.
Why?
It's too quiet.
Too quiet.
Yes, back east is different.
How?
Well, for instance, in New York, we're rocked to sleep by the Manhattan Lullaby.
Oh, what's that?
It's played on ash cans about 3 a.m. every morning.
Sounds terrible.
It is. Then there's the Taxicab Symphony. And at 5 o'clock in the morning, the Milk Wagon Serenade. Do you know, Molly, milk has kept more people awake than coffee. I'm just crazy about the East.
And I'm in love with the West.
Well, let's compromise and live in Chicago.
Do you really like me, Danny?
I think you're adorable.
Then why don't you try to like the things I like? Once you know the beauty of Arizona, you become a part of it.
That's what I'm afraid of.
Oh, Danny, you're hopeless. It's strange. I've waited so long for the right man to come along, and now that you've come, you're not what I dreamed of at all. There's a somebody I'm longing to see. I hope that he turns out to be someone who'll watch over me. I'm a little lamb who's lost in the wood. I know I could be awfully good to one who'll watch over me. Although he may not be the man some girls think of as handsome, to my heart he carries the key. Won't you tell him, please, to put on some speed? Follow my lead. Oh, how I need someone to watch over me.
Well, the election campaign for sheriff is really beginning to rock, Custerville. And Danny, as my campaign manager, has some fancy notions about getting out the votes. He's imported a hot band from Chicago and arranged for Kate to do some electioneering and swing. Personally, I can't figure why Kate's anxious to get me elected sheriff, on account of she's taken quite a fancy to me, preferring my more cultivated Eastern-type accent to the brogue which them cowhands use. She's not the best-looking showgirl to come off Broadway, but she sure has a flock of personality and something else besides.
Days can be sunny with never a sigh. Don't need what money can buy. Birds in the trees sing their day full of song. Why shouldn't we sing along? I'm chipper all the day, happy with my lot. How do I get that way? Look at what I got. I got rhythm, I got music, I got my man who could ask for anything more. I got daisies in green pastures, I got my man with never a sigh. Don't need what money can buy. Birds in the trees sing their day full of song. Why shouldn't we sing along? I'm chipper all the day, happy with my lot. How do I get that way? Look at what I got. That way, look at what I got. I got rhythm, I got music, I got my man who could ask for anything more. I got daisies in green pastures, I got my man who could ask for anything more. Home and trouble, I don't mind him, you won't find him round my door. I got starlight, I got sweet dreams, I got my man who could ask for anything more, who could ask for anything more.
I got rhythm, I got music, I got my man who could ask for anything more. I got daisies in green pastures, I got my man who could ask for anything more. Home and trouble, I don't mind him, you won't find him round my door. I got starlight, I got sweet dreams, I got my man who could ask for more. Who could ask for anything more?
Home and trouble, I don't mind him, you won't find him hanging around the front or back door.
Starlight, I got sweet dreams, I got my man
Who wants more?
who wants for anything more.
And now, I give you the next sheriff of Costaville, Geber Goldfarb.
Beaver! Folks, if I am elected, I will make the best little sheriff you've ever had. I want you to know that I am for the people. I never stole a dollar from anyone in my life. All I'm asking is that you give me a chance. To be elected, I mean. You don't want a cheap crook like Cactus Jake. He ain't the man for the job. Would he get out of a warm bed in the middle of the night and come to your protection? I asked you, would he? On the other hand, would I? No. There you are. I hate to talk about a man behind his back, if he can hear me. But Jake won't meet me face to face, not if I can help it. I've been looking for that guy. He ain't fit company for pigs. When I see him, I'll just say,
You're what?
hello, Jake.
So you've been looking for me, eh?
What makes you think so?
You try to poison them folks against me, would you? We kill out here for less than that.
Everything's cheaper out here.
You know who killed the other two sheriffs?
No, but I got a darn good idea.
You're right, neighbor. I did it.
And if you're elected, I suppose you'll commit suicide.
No, but if you're elected, I'm going to kill you. Now, look here, Geber. I'm going to give you one more chance to put me square with them folks.
Okay. Folks, this is my last chance. There's been a lot of talk going around this part of the country about what a rotten snake in the grass Cactus Jake is.
That's right, Geber.
You folks ought to be ashamed of yourselves. As somebody so wisely put it, Cactus Jake ain't fit company for pigs. They're wrong. He is.
Outstanding, Geber. All right, Geber. You asked for it.
Look out, Geber, he's got a gun.
There you go. He's got a gun.
Grab it, Geber, grab it.
Give me that thing.
Let go, my six-shooter. Let go,
Now, I got the gun.
Pull the trigger, Geber, pull the trigger.
No, don't shoot. Don't shoot. I'll give you $50 for that gun.
How can you kill a man when he's talking business? election, and for a while Jake lays low, which gives me plenty to worry about. But Danny's got his own troubles. Sam Mason keeps trying to turn Molly against him. Then, to make it worse, Sam breaks the bank at the ranch's gambling tables.
Danny's pretty angry with me for winning that $6,000, Molly. He doesn't like my taking anything from him.
Well, why do you and Danny dislike each other so?
Same old story. Girl trouble.
Oh, but Sam, it's so silly to hold a grudge over something that's past and done with.
Who told you it was past?
I don't understand. Surely you don't mean it's some girl out here.
No girl means anything to me, Molly, except you.
See what I mean? Well, Danny's seeing less and less of Molly, and he's losing interest in the ranch. And finally, he takes to sitting around with the cowboys doing nothing. Well, practically nothing.
Some fellas love to tell it to the daisies. Some stroll beneath a honeysuckle vine. Some fellas, when they've climbed the highest mountain, still keep a crying for the Caroline. But I'm biding my time, 'cause that's the kind of guy I'm. While butterflies go flitting, I keep sitting, biding my time. Give me a glass that's full of tinkle. Let me dream like Rip Van Winkle. He bided his time, and like that Winkle guy, I'm chasing wayflies, how the day flies, biding, setting and biding, no regretting, setting and biding my time. Setting here and biding my time. Molly.
What happened to you this morning? I thought you were going riding with me.
Well, I didn't get away from the gambling tables until 5. Then I lay down for an hour and never woke up until 12.
It's hard to be a playboy and a cowboy at the same time.
Well, I'll bet you'll be there tomorrow morning.
Sorry, but I won't.
Why? Where are you going?
To the races at San Luis in Mexico.
With Sam?
Yes.
I won't let you. Molly, you just don't understand the kind of man he is.
He's an Easterner, just as you are, Danny. But he appreciates what we have out here.
I'll bet he does. Well, you can't go with him.
Oh, really? Well, just you try and stop me.
I'm not afraid of that pop gun.
Oh, you better be. I can shoot mighty straight. See that bottle over there on the bar?
Mm-hmm.
Watch the neck.
Put up that gun.
Keep your distance, playboy.
Hey, what's going on here?
Just a little warning.
What's the rope for, Danny?
Oh, that's to tie me up with Sam.
I'll turn Bronco Buster, Danny.
Being a Bronco Buster, he busts the Bronco. He seems to be unafraid. And now this gay man, this big and brave man, is out to capture a maid.
Stop it! Listen, Molly, I'm trying to keep you from going on this trip with Sam Mason because I know he isn't on the level with you.
Who says I'm not?
I do. You're only going around with Molly to get even with me for taking a girl away from you in New York.
Ready, Molly?
Don't go, Molly. You don't know what you mean to me. I need you, my sweet embraceable you. I need you, you irreplaceable you. If you should ever leave me, really I don't know what I would do. My sweet embraceable you.
Is it true that you brought Kate out here and that you used to be
She
her...
came out, yes, but that's all over.
Tell that to the Marines.
Where's your car, Sam?
You're not going with them.
Let go of me. This rough stuff doesn't suit you, playboy. Stand back. Remember, I can shoot straight.
Stand! All right, go with him. Go on. I don't care what you do now. You enjoy making a fool of a man, just like the rest of them. Go ahead.
Take it easy, Danny.
Kate's right, Danny. It don't do no good to lose your temper.
It's always that way with passion. So, playboy, learn to behave, or else you're liable to cash in with no tombstone on your grave.
End of Act Two. I think I can assure you that all is not yet over between Molly and Danny. There's a law known as Schubert's principle of the delayed finale, which states that boy must be parted from girl at a certain point in every musical show. This makes for more music, more fun, and still more music. And believe me, the music and the fun are what count. Before the scene shifts to Mexico, we'll hear from Kenneth Banghart, a solid caballero speaking for the Ford Motor Company.
This week in the showrooms of Ford dealers all over America, you can see the first new post-war products of the Ford Motor Company, the 1948 models of the famous Ford trucks. And these new Ford trucks are new all through, really new. They have new engines, new frames, new brakes, new cabs, new comfort, and new models that are bigger than Ford ever built before. There are 3 new engines in Ford 48 trucks, all newly designed. A 95 horsepower 6-cylinder engine and 2 V8s, 100 and 145 horsepower. The frames are newly designed for greater strength. The cabs are planned for living room comfort. And there are larger trucks, the biggest Fords ever built, nearly half again as large as any previous Ford trucks. All in all, there are 139 models of the new 48 Ford trucks, a Ford for every job. And these new Fords are bonus built. According to Webster, bonus is something given in addition to what is usual or strictly due. According to Ford, bonus built is a truck designed and built with extra strength in every vital part. That means that 48 Ford trucks have a greater range of use, that they're not limited to one specific job. And this extra strength also means that Ford trucks do their jobs with less strain and wear. They work easier. 48 Ford trucks are planned and built stronger to last longer. By a study of the life histories of the 5 largest selling makes of trucks in America, life insurance experts have already proved that Ford trucks last longer, up to 19 6/10% longer. That's the record of past years. But now the new 48 Ford trucks are designed to be even better. They are bonus built. And whether or not you buy or operate trucks, you will be served better because the organization which has built more trucks than any other, Ford, builds bonus built trucks. Watch for the 48 Ford trucks. See them now at the showroom of your friendly Ford dealer.
So Molly went off to the races at San Luis in Mexico with Sam Mason, who is up to no good. Danny and Kate have followed in Gieber's hard-working taxi, which is up to anything. As we rejoin the mob, Gieber has found Molly. She is not altogether contented with her recent anti-Danny actions.
Ah, come on now, Molly, cheer up.
I can't help it. I found out I'm in love, and it's too late.
It's never too late.
Oh, it's no use, Gieber. You can afford to be cheerful. You have Kate.
Kate? She's not in love with me. Why, who could love a face like this, I ask you?
And then we're both in the same boat, I suppose.
What? You got a face like this? That's better. Come on, Molly, turn on that sunshine.
Old man sunshine, listen you. Never tell me dreams come true. Just try it, and I'll start a riot. Beatrice Fairfax, don't you dare ever tell me he will care. I'm certain it's the final curtain. I never want to hear from any cheerful not for me. With love to lead the way, I found more clouds of gray than any Russian play could guarantee. I was a fool to fall and get that way. Oh, alas, and also lack a day. Although I can't dismiss the memory of his kiss, I guess he's not for
goes off to the races with Sam Mason, who she is beginning to feel sorry she ever met up with. Pretty soon, Kate and Danny come along, and he wants me to drive them around to the gambling joints.
Mexico's wide open, Geber.
It ought to be, Danny. They've been shooting it up long enough. I don't feel comfortable here. I wish I was back in Custerville facing Cactus Jake.
Jake's down here.
Down here? Quit your kidding, Kate.
I'm not kidding. I saw him myself. I thought you wanted to meet him.
Well, not here. I can't arrest him here. It's out of my jurisdiction.
Oh, you needn't be afraid of him, Geber.
Oh, I ain't afraid exactly. It's just that I'm wanted for murder.
Murder? Who'd you killed?
Nobody. Jake wants to kill me. Come on, Danny, let's get going.
Some sheriff. Some hero I picked for myself. Oh, why do I do these things? His brains are minus, never a thought inside. And yet his highness lectures me day and night. And here I anchor, I might have had a banker. Boy, what love has done to me. His nature's funny, quarrelsome half the time. And as for money, he hasn't got a dime. And here's the joker, I might have had a broker. Boy, what love has done to me. When a guy looks my way, does he get emphatic? Say he gets dramatic. I just wanna fly away. But if I left him, I'd be all at sea. Where will I wind up? I don't know where I'm at. I make my mind up, but how can I leave him flat? For I have grown so, I love the no-good song so. Boy, what love has done to me. Oh, Molly, I'm glad you're back. I've been trying to get a word with you, alone.
Well, if it's about you and Danny.
It is, Molly, and you've got it all wrong. Sure, Danny gave me a play for a while, but that was before he came out here. He hasn't given me a tumble since he met you. Honest.
Well,
It's Sam Mason who's been giving you the runaround, Molly. Why, he's got a wife in New York and a girlfriend for every cactus in Arizona.
well, if that's true.
Of course it is. And Danny was telling the truth when he said Sam only came out here to get even with him.
Of all the low-down, ornery tricks. Just wait till I see that.
What's happened?
We find some Mason outside with his head boss. I go call the police.
Good heavens. I hope it wasn't.
Danny, here he comes now. You can ask him.
Someone knocked Sam out. He's in bad shape.
Oh, then it wasn't you who...
Struck him from behind and robbed him? Certainly not.
Of course, he was carrying that $6,000. So that's what Cactus Jake came down here for.
Danny, I'm sorry I misunderstood about you and Kate.
Then you didn't really fall for Sam?
Danny, Molly, don't stand around here talking. You better get out of town and move fast. The police are after you, Danny.
Me?
Yeah. They heard you had it in for Sam. I tell you, it ain't healthy around here. You better take Molly and get in Sam's car and head back to the ranch.
But what about Sam? We can't leave him like this.
I'll take care of him. Go along with him, Kate.
And what about Cactus Jake?
I'll take care of him, too.
Oh, no, I'm staying. This I gotta see.
Hi there, Molly. Glad to see you back.
Oh, but it's good to be back in Arizona, boys. Look at those mountains over there, Danny. Aren't they beautiful?
But, Molly, those mountains are in California.
What difference does it make? I love them all. New Mexico, I love you. California, I love you too. Wyoming, I love you. Oklahoma, I love you too. But of all the states in the West, here for us there's one that's the best. When it's cactus time in Arizona, I'll be waiting there for you. I will serenade you with Ramona beneath sunny skies of blue. What a thrill, my darling, when we own a little rancho built for two. When it's cactus time in Arizona, I'll be waiting there for you.
When it's cactus time in Arizona, I'll be waiting there for you. I will serenade you with Ramona beneath the sunny skies of blue.
What a thrill, my darling, when we own a little rancho built for two. When it's cactus time in Arizona, I'll be waiting there.
I'll be waiting there.
Celebrating there.
Celebrating there. When it's cactus time in Arizona.
Hooray for Geber Goldfarb! Hooray for our sheriff!
Geber's back.
What happened, Kate?
Geber's captured Jake and he's confessed.
Yeah, I had a tough fight, but I won.
Oh, Geber, I'm so proud of you.
I don't blame you. I'm proud of myself. You should have heard the reception I got at the courthouse. I'm still hoarse from all the cheering.
Tell us how you captured Jake, Geber.
Well, I figured he'd make for the border, so I hung around, and sure enough, he hailed me. How could he know I got the only cab in Arizona? And then we had some fight. I gave him the face punch, and then the third punch.
You mean the second punch.
No, the second I got.
Where's Jake now?
In jail. I had a little trouble getting out myself. Hacking without an Arizona license.
Hey, look at Molly. Where'd you get them Eastern clothes, Molly?
Gee, Molly, you look beautiful.
Are these the sort of clothes that smart New York girls are buying?
Smart New York girls don't buy their own clothes.
Molly, from now on, I'm really Western. Look what I've learned to do. I can spin a gun on one finger.
Oh, wonderful.
And I've burned up all my Eastern clothes.
What? Just after I bought these?
Oh, you look swell. I was just getting ready to let you show me those mountain peaks at dawn.
I'd rather you'd show me the Empire State Building.
All right. But there's something I want to ask you first.
What?
Will you marry me and be mine for the rest of your life?
Well,
Excuse me, Molly, but you'd better marry him. Our time is almost up.
all right, Mr. Lindsay, I will.
Embrace me, my sweet embraceable
Embrace me, my
Don't be a naughty baby. Come to Papa, do. My sweet embraceable you.
George Gershwin in 1930. We were fortunate in having as our principal singers today 3 of radio's brightest young stars. Monica Lewis, who appeared as Molly, Larry Douglas as Danny, and Marilyn Day as Kate. Geber Goldfarb was played by Ted DeCorsia, long and outstanding character actor, soon to be seen in the motion picture The Naked City. Next week, Arsenic and Old Lace. Together with a man named Krauss, I produced Arsenic and Old Lace on the New York stage back in 1941. Mr. Krauss and I had fun with that play. Plenty of worries, too, but mostly fun. The fun has been transferred in its entirety to our Ford Theater version, which deals, like the original, with 13 murders, 2 very sweet old ladies, and a fiend. We have prevailed upon our original pair of sweet old ladies to join us. The kindly Spencers will be played by Josephine Hull and Jean Adair.
Girl Crazy was adapted for radio by George Zachary from the book by Guy Bolton and Jack McGowan and lyrics by Ira Gershwin. The music was adapted and conducted by Lynn Murray. The continuity was by George Faulkner. Our editor is Howard Teichman, and the entire production was under the direction of George Zachary. The other players in Girl Crazy were Walter Vaughn, Lauren Gilbert, and Jeffrey Bryant.
The 1932 RKO Radio Pictures production was very unlike the stage play, except for its score. The film was tailored for the comic talents of then-popular comedy team Burt Wheeler and Robert Woolsey. In 1943, Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer produced a lavish version starring Mickey Rooney and Judy Garland that also bore little resemblance to the stage show. In 1965, MGM once again made the musical into a film for Connie Francis this time, which was more a remake of the Mickey and Judy film. And unlike the previous 2 versions, the title was changed to When the Boys Meet the Girls. It co-starred, get this, Herman's Hermits, Sam the Sham and the Pharaohs, Louis Armstrong, and Liberace. So, Stephen, it doesn't sound like Girl Crazy got too much luck when it got in terms of its movie versions, huh?
Well, I think the Judy and Mickey isn't too bad, and it has a lot of great music. And to hear Judy sing anything is wonderful. And you do get that moment when she sings "But Not for Me" and "Embraceable You," and the "I Got Rhythm" finale with Busby Berkeley going wild. It's kind of fun. The other one has Mitzi Green, who is always fascinating to me, and she did great impersonations. So when she did "But Not For Me," she did all her impressions of movie stars, including George Arliss. So that's kind of fun. So, this one made some changes in the plot too, because Kate Fothergill, the Frisco Kate, had nothing to do with Danny's love life. It was a cute little change to make Molly jealous of that character, and then to have Geber go for her. But she was just some woman who showed up. Originally, I believe she didn't have much dialogue. She had the 3 songs. That's all they really wanted her there for. And during rehearsals, they found out that Merman was a great comedian. And so they kept adding stuff for her to do. But basically, she had a husband in the show, and that's why she sings "Boy, What Love Has Done to Me," which she still does in this, thank goodness. The only song that she doesn't get to do in the version we just heard is Sam and Delilah. And that's too bad.
Talk about a show that just became like a lightning rod for a particular actor, of them getting her into it and then recognizing her talent and then building on her talent and basically serving up this just delicious gift to Broadway on opening night, and giving them the first lady of the American musical theater for the next 50 years. It's
really lucky.
Yeah, really lucky.
Absolutely. Well, she always liked to tell the story of how she was discovered by Vinton Friedley, the producer at the Brooklyn Paramount Theater. She was doing shows in between movies, and he took her to George Gershwin's house, and and she sang for Gershwin. She always left that part out. She auditioned, and then Gershwin auditioned for her and sang her the 3 songs.
Yeah.
And she liked to say, he said, Miss Merman, if there's anything about these songs you don't like, I'd be most happy to change them.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't have to happen, though.
And she said it was like meeting God, right?
Yeah, I mean, she was up in this penthouse in the sky, and she was from Queens. She was just she had been a stenographer up till now.
Yeah.
So it really, I think that's what made Merman early on too, is that wonderful naive quality, and then go out there and knock your socks off because I'm not scared to.
Yeah.
And that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
So interestingly, years and years later, I got to know her. In her last 2 years, I was friends with her, and she used to bring lots of her friends over to my apartment to watch the rare videos that I had. And we had these wonderful parties. So I knew her through her concert manager, Bob Gardner, who booked all those symphony concerts she did. And he one day called me up and said, listen, I'm going to take you to a meeting with Cy Rosen at Carnegie Hall because we're going to do a concert version of Girl Crazy with Ginger Rogers and Ethel Merman. And I thought, oh my God, 50 years later.
Wow.
And I was so excited because I don't know what I was going to be involved with, but I assumed I would somehow write some narration for it, that it would be a concert narration. And anyway, things bogged down over billing. Think about this. You've got Ginger Rogers and Ethel Merman. Who gets top billing? And you would think by this point they would have figured it out, but no. Ginger said, I get top billing because I was the original star of the show. I'm the ingenue. Ethel said, I get top billing because who the hell wants to hear Ginger Rogers sing?
I think they might have looked back to the old, how they solved it on Red Hot and Blue and just did
well, that's what that was a cross for, the names crossed. And I did think about that. So I'm sitting there in his office and I thought, okay, how can we solve this? And I told Cy Rosen, I was quite young and naive myself, and I said, why don't you do a logo with a lariat, a woman with swinging a lariat, and it'll all be in a circle so that nobody is on the top. And he thought that was the most brilliant thing he ever heard in his life. And he said, that's fabulous. I'm calling Ethel. He picked up the phone, called Merman, put her on speakerphone, and said, Ethel, I'm here with your friend Steve Cole, and he got the most great idea about doing a circle billing, and she heard dead silence. And she went, Steve Cole? Steve Cole? That kid from 9th Avenue? What the hell does he know about billing? And she said, I get top, left, or nothing. Click. And I thought, my life is over. She's never going to speak to me again. And
she did. She
did. I called her up and she fired her agent that day. She said, if I can't get what I want, he's out. And so the concert never happened. Now, that was the same year she had the stroke and had a brain tumor. So it wouldn't have happened anyway. But boy, when she called me, that kid from 9th Avenue, and she was right. She was like, she wanted what she wanted, and she hadn't been the star on Broadway for that long to give it up to Ginger Rogers.
That'll humble you if nothing.
Yeah. The only other thing I remember is that Gieber would have been Sid Caesar. We thought him, and that would have been fun because we needed people of that age. You were going to have these old ladies doing these songs, so
that would have been a thrill.
Yes,
Stephen Cole, I'm so delighted that you joined me today. You're just such a font of knowledge, and you run one of the best Facebook groups that I know. I have learned so much from you and from everybody who associates with you on that group. You're just a gift to us who love classic musicals, and I appreciate you being here with me today.
Well, thank you so much. Ask me back again.
I will. Theaters across the country need your support now, more than ever. We hope you'll consider a donation to Porchlight Music Theater today. Just go to porchlightmusictheater.org. Until next time on Classic Musicals from the Golden Age of Radio, I'm Michael Weber.